On this edition of Raise All Access, we go in depth with Joey Wendell. The versatile infielder tells us how growing up the youngest of three boys and wrestling still affect him as a competitor, why he's one of the few players who doesn't wear batting gloves, and when he decided to become more than just a second baseman.
It was actually in 2017. I kind of remember thinking to myself, like, I don't see any reason why that can't be me. I don't see that there's any reason why I can't play shortstop, or I can't play third, or I can't, obviously play second.
Doug Wechter and Orestes Destrada will analyze the team's performance through the first quarter of the season, and Kyle Snyder breaks down some of the pitching staff's key contributors. Welcome to Raise All Access. I'm Trisha Whitaker. Ever since Joey Wendell can remember, he's been a competitor trying to prove himself. And it's one of the things that's defined his career and made him a key contributor to a franchise that values that type of intangible characteristic. Recently, I had a chance to sit down with number 18 to discuss everything from his versatility to his faith to growing up the youngest of three boys and how that helped shape his competitive drive.
Yeah, I mean, I was 3 and 5 years younger than them, and so I mean, even my parents said when I was 1, 2, 3 years old, it wasn't necessarily an excuse to not hang in or not be as good or not, get in on the action just because I was younger. So I think just because of that, as a 2-year-old, I was playing with a 5 and a 7-year-old, and so I kind of just tried to keep up with them, and I guess to a certain extent, all the way, through high school and college, that was just, I looked up to them so much as athletes. And, when you're in middle school and they're on the high school baseball team, that's the coolest thing. And then when you're in high school and they're playing college ball, to get to experience that with them was pretty cool. But also just, as men I couldn't think of two bigger brothers to have, two better role models to have in my life than them.
Joey, brothers, they like to play pranks on each other. They like to give each other a hard time, especially when they're competitive. What happened with you and your brothers growing up that you can share with us on television about some of the competitive moments?
My brothers used to take the dog's shock collar and put it around my neck, and then one would grab my feet and one would grab my arms, and they would swing me across the underground fence line. I remember one time my brother threw tacks in the shower when I was taking a shower, and then turned out the lights so that I'd step on the tacks and stuff like that. So, I mean, just my mom, if she watches this, she'd be like, "No, I swear I was a good parent." But I mean, yeah, just mostly fun stuff like that. I mean, I would always try to get them back, but I was always smaller and weaker, so I had to kind of be smarter. I remember one time I actually put sharp objects on my brother's ceiling fan so that when he turned it on that he would maybe get something, and that was probably not my best idea. I certainly wouldn't recommend that one, but yeah, I mean, we were always kind of going back and forth wrestling. I mean, they all wrestled too, and I wrestled growing up, so it was a pretty aggressive but loving household.
You mentioned wrestling. You grew up wrestling as well. How did that teach you toughness?
I wrestled as soon as I got into middle school. So I wasn't, wrestling from the time I was 30 pounds all the way up. It wasn't, baseball was the first love as a family. But yeah, my oldest brother started to wrestle, and then my middle brother started to wrestle, and then I had no option but to do it as well. Yeah, wrestling I think is a unique sport. Teaches you a lot about yourself, a lot about discipline, a lot about just your physical limitations and stuff like that. So I think, more than anything, especially with the coaching that we had, it teaches you a certain amount of mental toughness and physical toughness, but also just, becoming a man of character. And I think, that's one of the things that I can attribute to wrestling is just, in some ways it can just take a boy and turn him into a man. There's a lot of things that I think that you could say that about, but to me, wrestling is is a big part of who I am and just kind of my mentality.
All right, flash forward. And you're drafted by the Indians. Then you're traded to the A's in 2014, and you make your MLB debut with Oakland. You played in 36 games for them. What was that like for you and making your debut there and your time with them?
I think to get the opportunity to play baseball professionally is for me was a dream come true. And you spend the vast majority of your minor league career making very little money, but I mean I feel like for me when I started playing in the minor leagues and all the way up through AAA, I knew what I was getting into, and I loved every second of it. I mean, I love baseball. I have a passion for baseball, and there are times when in AAA with Oakland where it might be difficult and you're away from your family and you're on the road and you're 0 for your last 15 and you're like, what am I doing here? But I think that kind of molds you, and there's so much. There's a mental aspect to this game that I think that unless you've spent a couple of years in the minors or significant time in the minors, that maybe you would lack some of that development had you not if you would have just gone right up to the major league. So I'm thankful for that time. I'm thankful for my time with Oakland. So many good people over there, and a lot of guys that I still keep in contact with, and I'm thankful I got my first shot with them.
When we come back, Joey tells us how he's managed to master multiple infield positions. After having already gone through being traded from Cleveland to Oakland, Joey Wendle found himself in a similar position in December of 2017, when the A's worked out a deal to send him to the Rays. Joey recalls the moment that he heard the news and his reaction.
I remember they told me it was going to be like 24 hours, we'll find something out. It was like 3 or 4 days later that they told me it was the Rays. So spending like 4 days not knowing where you're going to be, knowing you could be with any one of 29 other teams. But yeah, I remember getting that call and being excited. Eric called me, Chaim Bloom at the time called me, and kind of came in with no expectations really. Just came into camp, and I thought I had an opportunity to make the team, and I knew that I was kind of in a so-called camp battle with a couple of other guys, and just looking to make the most of that opportunity.
And then that 2018 spring, it was a huge spring training for you. You came in there and put up some impressive numbers, and then you earned a spot on the opening day roster. Did you go into that spring training thinking, I got to prove myself? This is my chance to prove myself with a new team.
You could look at any year and say, this is so crucial to my career. But I look at that one in 2018, getting kind of just a fresh set of eyes on me, a new opportunity with the Rays. And there was almost a sense of anticipation going into spring training, knowing that I had, an opportunity to make the team. And if I perform well, that, I had a shot to make a difference on this team. And I'm so thankful that it did, and so thankful that I had the spring that I did, because we all know how baseball is. You can want it as bad as anybody else, you can work harder than anybody else, but sometimes when you get in that box, it feels like you've never been there before. So I'm thankful that I had a good spring training, and got a chance with that 2018 team.
Might seem like a broad question, but how did you get so versatile on defense?
I think I kind of saw how the game was evolving. I mean, it's almost every team now has a guy who can play multiple positions, and it was actually in 2017. I kind of remember thinking to myself, like, I don't see any reason why that can't be me. I don't see that there's any reason why I can't play shortstop, or I can't play third, or I can't obviously play second. So I kind of had that mentality as I was coming into yes, probably a second baseman first, but I'm definitely open to play shortstop, to play third base, play left field like I ended up doing a little bit that year. Anything to get me in that lineup, anything to make the lineup a little bit more flexible or easier on the coaching staff to kind of set that lineup. I am willing and I am able. I think from that point it was kind of like, all right, well, today I guess I'll shift over to shortstop, see take some reps over there and see if I can't get better at shortstop, and then at third base, and then go back to second where I'm comfortable. And then over time I just started to get more playing time at other positions in the infield, and have just grown more comfortable over time with it.
Okay, so I know that you've said that there's not a story to why you don't wear batting gloves, but was there ever a moment where you were trying them and you were like, nope, don't like the way this feels.
Remember those stories about my brothers beating me up? If I wore gloves, I think it would be worse than that. No, I mean, yeah, I have tried it coming back from injury both times. I broke my hamate and then broke my wrist in 19. And I think, kind of just searching for anything to kind of help me with that grip on the bottom hand. I used them a couple times, I think, in some rehab games, but never really stuck. And, I've never grabbed a bat with batting gloves and said this feels better than grabbing it with my hands. So I think it's just as simple as that. I mean, people ask me, why do I not wear batting gloves? And I just say, well, why do you wear batting gloves? I mean, it does, to me, that's, it's just as simple as that. I just don't like them.
Your faith means a lot to you. How has that helped you in your journey through baseball into the major leagues?
My faith is what defines me. I mean, that my faith is who I am. I mean, what I do is a baseball player. I am, a husband, a father, a son, a brother, a friend. I mean, I'm so many things, but what defines me is not what I am to other people. It's not what I do on a baseball field. It's what Jesus Christ has done for me on the cross. For me to have that in my life, for me to have that stability, that foundation, I mean, it's everything. So good, bad, happy, sad, I mean, whatever it is, I mean, to have something that's eternal, to have something that, is the foundation of my life, be constant and consistent for me, allows me to be a good husband when I'm 0 for 4. It allows me to be a good father when I haven't, been away for a week and I didn't get a hit all road trip. It's what allows me to be a good teammate and an encourager. So it's not just something that, that's a part of me. It's who I am. It's what defines me.
When we come back, Doug Wechter and Orestes Destrada look back at some of the hits and misses from the first quarter of the 2021 season. Well, it hasn't been all smooth sailing for the Rays to start the season. Injuries, especially to their bullpen, have tested their depth, and the offense, well, it's been hit or miss. But somehow, the Rays have managed to stay in the hunt despite some of that adversity. So let's turn it over to two of our resident experts to break down just how they've done that. Doug Wechter and Orestes Destrada.
Well, Dougie, this year it's about the bullpen, no doubt. It's going to be something so important. 2021 already has been. Give me your take so far after all these games.
Yeah, and pitching staff in general, it started out struggling, right? April 10th, they ranked 28th in the major leagues with about a 5.5 ERA, but since then they've really turned it around. The starters have thrown it excellent. They're around a 3.5 ERA, but the bullpen in general has just really stepped their game up. They got a sub-3 ERA since April 10th, and a lot of the reason is because of the guys coming in for some injured arms, right? Nick Anderson went down early, and that was a huge loss. Behind him, Pete Fairbanks has seen some IL time, and so has Diego Castillo. Those are the three main guys last year that now, with those individuals going down at a certain time, they've had to fill that role. Jeffrey Springs is a guy who's come up and really filled that role in nicely. Left-hander who is starting to get into situations where Cash is using him even as a saves guy, as a closer.
Yes.
He's getting a lot of confidence in Jeffrey Springs and what he can bring to the table. Ryan Thompson is a guy from last year who threw some quality innings, but this year has now stepped his game up to the point where he's getting into those roles that he has to be the hammer on the team, where he goes in and he sees the best part of the opposing lineup and he's consistently getting them out. So it's really, the ability of these guys going in there, stepping into new roles, but getting comfortable very quickly. And, that's making this bullpen that much better. All right, Big O, let's switch it over to some offense, something I know you love talking about. What are your thoughts first quarter of the season through?
Well, I mean, right off the bat, Dougie, I'm going to say I've been a little disappointed in the offense. I've been a little disappointed mainly with the consistency of the offense. There have been so many opportunities, especially late in games, 7th, 8th, and 9th, where they could have taken games. Things that they did last year, in the World Series ride. They definitely did it the year before in 2019. Most of the core of this team is here. One of the things that I'm going to mention is risk. You can't get around it. Runners in scoring position has been a problem for this team. They've gotten a little better now in the last 8 or 10 games, but it was really terrible in the homestand. I will tell you this, the other problem that I think is going to come around is my big three superstars of the team. Combining and getting cohesive. and that is Meadows, Arozarena, and Brandon Lau. At different times, they've each kind of shown sparks, but all three together have not really kind of come together cohesively, been that 1, 2, 3 or 2, 3, 4 in the lineup that has been as consistent as I'd like it to see, and then that would drive the rest of the lineup. Thank goodness for Wendell. Thank goodness for Yandy Diaz getting on base, and thank goodness for Margot, who have really kind of been the consistent, steady offense, getting on base, driving in runs, run production, scoring runs. Because other than that, we've been pretty sporadic. But I think this team is going to find it. And then when they do, mixed with that bullpen and the pitching that we're having, it's going to be a real good second half for this team. Hey, Dougie, as we finish up, some feel-good stories. What's yours?
Yeah, my number one feel-good would be Shane McClanahan.
This
is a first-round draft pick in 2018 out of University of South Florida. So really, he's more of a local guy. Even though he didn't grow up in the Tampa Bay area, he went to school here. And, me personally, I know how that feels to be able to go and play for the Rays and being from the area. So having him come out of USF, making a Major League debut just 2 years after he was drafted, really cool story there. Not to mention, this dude is on point with his stuff. How about you, Will?
I'm going to give you my feel-good story. It's the kid from Georgia, Brent Honeywell. He's the comeback kid. He's unbelievable. When you think about it, this kid has had 4 surgeries, missed the last 3 years. Seemed like every spring, man, we would think, okay, he's back, and then something else would knock him out. Another elbow injury, another serious surgery that would miss the whole year. Think about it. When you're told basically in February and March, you're done again for the whole year, you got to rehab. And every year he would just get back into rehab, get back on the horse, and then try to make another effort. Finally, this year, he made it up to the big leagues. He's helping this team out. He's going to be up and down in that rotation that they have. But Brent Honeywell, it's impossible to not support this kid. He's something special. And he kind of like a microcosm of the Rays, the little engine that could, and he really can.
Yep, he's finding a way.
Still to come on this edition of Rays All Access, pitching coach Kyle Snyder gives us the details on some of the starters and relievers who have stood out so far in 2021. And who better to help us wrap up this edition of Rays All Access than Rays pitching coach Kyle Snyder. He sat down with me to discuss some of the early standout performers of the season, including Tyler Glasnow and his newfound ability to work himself out of trouble, even when he doesn't have his best stuff.
It's another step forward, right? It's another hurdle, for him in just becoming the pitcher that he's going to become. And those guys, they have to have the ability to rein it in when they don't feel like everything's clicking, be it in their delivery, be it a couple of pitches, that just, not able to have, they don't have the feel for, they're not commanding, but to see him do that, to see him to go out there and just battle and get through 5 innings and keep us in the game and give us a chance to win, that's a mark of a really true ace, and going forward, that's certainly going to serve him well. You're going to learn a lot more from outings like that than you probably take away from outings that you strike out 14.
Luis Patino, he goes out there in his debut with his new team, and he gives you a solid 2 2/3 inning of work. How excited are you for the future that you guys see with him and with this team?
A couple of things stood out in spring training. I think you saw it a little bit towards the tail end of the first inning that he pitched here. He pitches with a lot of energy and tenacity, on top of being just a tremendous talent. He's got a really unique breaking ball. He's got a well above average changeup, and he's got a fastball that we grade out and feel is one of the better fastballs in the game and has the potential to continue to grow. But just his love for pitching, his love for competition, I think really kind of shines through in getting that opportunity. And I think the fan base should really look forward to what Luis Patino has to offer this staff going forward for a long time.
Rich Hill, fascinating guy to interview. Animated on the mound, 41 years old, has so much experience. What do you see from him, and what can he contribute to this team?
I think that's something that obviously we try to pride ourselves in as a staff here, is to allow everyone to be themselves when they're here. And Rich is a lot of fun to watch every 5 games. Just a tremendous talent, just the longevity of his career, how many different times he's reinvented himself, the success he's had at suppressing runs the last 5 seasons. he's going to continue to play such a big part in this season for us. And it may come in a variety of roles in an effort to be sure that we have the best version of Rich and we're handling him and his workload, as responsibly as we can, when it means the most. But he's been a lot of fun to work with. I've learned a lot, probably more from Rich than Rich has learned from me. Tremendous competitor and still a really, really gifted left-handed arm.
Josh Fleming, what a start to the season for him. He made his MLB debut last year, and he comes in this season and he doesn't skip a beat. What can you say about what he's been able to give you when you need it?
He pitches with a tremendous amount of poise. He loves to pitch. He pitches with a quick pace, and I think that certainly serves him well in terms of just kind of offsetting timing and disrupting timing, which is kind of the core of what we do and at the center of what we do. And there's different ways to do that, Josh goes out there and has done, from last year to this year, has done nothing but open eyes in terms of what he's capable of. He keeps the ball off the barrel and keeps the ball on the ground quite often, but his arsenal continues to evolve, and I expect to see, continued better version of Josh as this season continues to unfold. There's still some upside there. His talent got him to the big leagues, and he's working to continue to refine himself as a pitcher, even though he's here.
A guy who has been so reliable for you through this time of injuries and who probably doesn't get the credit that he should is Andrew Kittredge. How reliable has he been, and what has he meant to you guys, especially coming off of an injury last year?
Andrew Kittredge is the most grounded individual I think I've ever been around. To have gone through what he's gone through, to deal with some of the uncertainty, just given that it was somewhat of a novel thing, and to be where he is right now, really holding down our bullpen, under the circumstances, being kind of that veteran presence, which is kind of hard for me to say, given that I've known Andrew since he's been a Tampa Bay Ray as well, that he's a veteran now. But he's brought a lot, just in terms of the talent, his productivity, but certainly the leadership that that he provides down there as well.
And did you know that Kyle Snyder has spent his entire coaching career in the Rays organization? He started in Hudson Valley in 2012 and then worked his way up to the majors, being named the Big League pitching coach in 2018. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Rays All Access. I'm Trisha Whitaker. We'll see you next time.